Am I the a-hole for telling my brother my nieces are no longer welcome to parties hosted by me? My older brother has two girls 14F and 13F. They are 18 months apart in age, but were never close. A couple of years ago they went from not close to despising each other. Before they would do their own things, didn't seem to seek each other out or like playing together, but they didn't fight. Now they can't be around each other without wishing they were an only child, yelling, cursing and all this other stuff. My son is 13 and told me before that they have wished the other dead as well. And that when he was at my brother's one weekend, he and my sister-in-law were looking after him while we took our daughter out of state for a hospital thing, and he said they both told him they despised the other and he saw them fight so many times. Apparently the eldest has been asking to live with my parents for a while now, but her parents say no. While my son was there she asked, and she told him she was asking for more than a year because she doesn't want to share the same house as her sister anymore. At my dad's birthday in June was the last straw for me. They do fight at family parties and events, but what happened was my sis-in-law wanted a photo of the girls with my parents. They were standing either side of my parents and sister-in-law at tried to make them stand together. My brother said sisters should be side by side in family photos. And the 13-year-old went off. She said that's for siblings who love each other, but she never loved her older sister, she didn't want an older sister, and she would never take a picture beside her ever. That she would rather be put into foster care and never see us again than see the oldest. Which the oldest then said none of this would happen if the parents had listened to her and that she was tired of being around her younger sister the whole time. My daughter's birthday is coming up and I don't want them ruining it. So I told my brother the girls won't be invited going forward. That unless they magically go back to how they were before. I don't want a scene at everything and for parties and celebrations to be spoiled by their vicious fighting and hatred for each other. He told me I can't do that in their family, they should be given a chance every time. He told me I was being unreasonable and setting a bad example. Am I the a-hole? I think way too many people have this mindset that because you happen to be born into a family, that means you automatically get along with all of your family members just because you share some DNA. There are some people you just don't fucking like for whatever reason. Sharing DNA or a house or parents or whatever doesn't magically erase that, and I don't think forcing relationships works in 99% of cases. These are teenagers who are known for being volatile and turbulent anyway, and they're getting absolutely no support from the people who are supposed to be helping them. Brother is definitely the one who should be banned here, he's failing abysmally as a parent. I think that the reason why they fight so much is possibly because they maybe were forced to be best friends when younger. That's my guess too. Me and my sister were forced together all the time as kids. As the older one I always had to look after her, let her play with me, let her be involved in my life, etc. I very quickly came to resent her and was admittedly very mean to her as a result because I wanted to push her away as that was the only chance if have to be left alone. Eventually our parents realized and let us just do our own things, and now as adults my sister is my best friend. But we'd never have become close if our parents had continued trying to force us to be friends. I think that the reason why they fight so much is possibly because they maybe were forced to be best friends when younger maybe, but the one thing I'm willing to put money on is that the parents share a lot of the blame for how things are. I get that some kids are just going to be a-holes and will fight and bully each other no matter what. That siblings don't have to be best friends or even like each other much. But considering things the way they are, at bare minimum the parents are at fault through severe neglect of the situation. If they didn't have a direct hand in it by doing things like trying to force a closer relationship than they wanted. Parents fucked up in the beginning. Okay, I'm willing to let that slide because parenting isn't close to a perfect science and, like I said, some kids are just assholes. Letting things get this bad and forcing the family to deal with it is worse in my opinion. People make mistakes, but the consequences get worse when you refuse to accept your mistakes or rectify them. But they aren't even neglecting the situation, they are actively making it worse. Girls tried to find solutions to the situation, but their parents always frig it up. Oldest offered to live either their grandparents, denied by parents. The two of them wanted to stay cordial, but distant in the family photo, denied by parents citing sisters should be side by side in photos. Their reasoning on the last one makes me think they force it on the girls because they are sisters and makes Or worse. Parenting isn't an exact science, definitely, but they are pushing the hatred between these two girls in vulnerable teenage years to the extreme. I just hope these two girls can get therapy and their parents a wake-up call. Therapy for sure. And looking to the parents is key. My sister, 3 years older than me, barely tolerated me in elementary school. In retrospect, I was really annoying and invaded her space and desperately wanted to be like her and hang with her friends, and she understandably didn't want me all up in her business all the time. This got worse, and it became us really hating each other throughout middle school and high school. She bullied me terribly, and I lashed out back at her, sometimes turning into scratching, kicking, throwing things at each other. She moved across the country for college, and I grew up a lot in high school and college and found my own friends and identity. It was only after I graduated that we really connected as equals and were able to talk and realize that everything we were doing was a reaction to the trauma we were going through with an emotionally abusive mother and absent father. She and I have had a lot of heart-to-heart talks about how much we were both hurting and how we just took all that anger and fear and lack of control and used it against each other. I'm not saying these girls are going through exactly what we did, but there's a problem with the family dynamic if they're this angry. My sister and I have both had years of individual therapy to process how dysfunctional our childhoods were. And we can never get those years back. These girls need help now. I'm gonna have to go to all the adults in these girls' lives have seen and know this has been going on since the youngest was born, give or take a few years, and it sounds like nothing has been done besides ignore the issue. These kids have wished the other was dead, they constantly fight, one of them would rather never see their whole family and go into foster care than be near the other. That isn't healthy behavior. Have you or anyone else even tried to get them help? They're only in their teens and wishing death on each other. How much longer until someone is being slipped poison or a pillow over the face at night or something else that can do physical harm? If their parents refuse to do anything, then at the very least, CPS needs to be called and given the full rundown of what is going on, because this is a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. Y'all are absolute AJFC. I'm a twin to a brother with Asperger's, and when I was a teenager I was forced to play with my brother and listen to him whenever he demanded it. Which was all the time. And if I didn't, I was told I was a terrible, heartless, selfish older sister. Edit. Even though we are twins, I was always called the older sister as that was my role in the sibling ship. Even when I got older, if I wanted to go on a walk I was forced to take the dogs and then also forced to take my brother because he doesn't have friends. I wasn't allowed to have any peace. Instead, on walks I had to manage 2 dogs and my brother who doesn't pay attention when we lived on a 60 miles per hour road. It created some resentment for my brother that I'm sure I would not have if I was given some space and wasn't told I was horrible for wanting time to myself to think at 14. I can imagine these girls might be in a situation where they literally don't have a minute to themselves to breathe. I'm actually neurodivergent too. Got myself diagnosed with dyspraxia at 18, right after I joined university. My parents didn't suspect anything for a long time because my brother's Asperger's was very physically pronounced. I know a lot of people don't use high and low functioning anymore, still don't know exactly how else to phrase it, so compared to him I appeared neurotypical. I also have depression and anxiety. I got called weird and a freak at school a lot, and I always felt like I didn't fit in. Apparently by the time I was 14 my parents had suspected I might have dyspraxia, but they never told me and never got a diagnosis because they didn't want me to feel like I was different, as if I didn't already feel that way. It always confused me how even after my parents suspected my dyspraxia, they still coddled my brother whilst treating me as if I didn't have a learning difficulty. All the things my brother got away with I was mercilessly punished for. Even after my diagnosis most people in my life aren't accommodating at all. I'm often told by friends and family to not mention my dyspraxia in job applications. In a lot of ways my ability to mask and blend in is both a blessing and a curse. I'm sorry you had to do all that whilst dealing with your own mental struggles. I know how hard it is. My sister and I are 18 months apart and we fought like cats and dogs every single day. My mother always dressed us alike and would preen whenever anyone asked whether we were twins, and we hated it. And if my sister wanted to play, I had to play with her, or she would start obnoxiously fake crying, and my mother would punish me. So I had no choice, I had to play with her, and she was ridiculously bossy and only wanted to play the most boring and annoying things that I hated, Or if we were doing something I liked like building blocks, she would copy me until I didn't even like playing blocks anymore. But my mother always said, "You're sisters, you're supposed to love each other." Ugh.now I live 2,000 miles away from my sister and mother, and thank God, because that was the one smartest thing I've ever done in my whole life. I can tolerate them now because I don't have to put up with them.